The question is, am I too dangerous to be in City Hall? And really, even like taking the context of those comments, there's just not really an argument to be made.
A Sacramento podcaster turned recent council member staffer speaking out for the first time only on ABC 10 after being targeted with a restraining order seeking to prevent him from stepping foot in City Hall following these controversial comments.
You do not get to make the decisions that you have made over and over and over and over and over again to the detriment of everybody who lives here, and then go home to your little McMansion in Natomas and like have a good night's rest. I'm sorry. You don't get to do that. You do not have the right to that.
It all dates back to March of this year. Henry says he was furious after Democratic Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema's thumbs down vote against the $15 minimum wage in the coronavirus relief package. He went on to sound off on this podcast.
You should be terrified for the rest of your life. You should never be able to leave your house if that is how you're going to use your position to govern. And like, to me, the same thing sort of applies with the mayor and the city manager of this city. It's like, no, you don't get to do that.
But after a year in which we saw protests at the city manager's home calling for police reform and even vandalism at Mayor Darrell Steinberg's home, the city pushed back hard when Sacramento City Councilwoman Katie Valenzuela hired Henry as a staffer. In what city attorneys themselves called an unusual move, the city of Sacramento filed to get a restraining order against Henry.
Were you surprised that this happened?
I expected, to have some awkward conversations at work. But I didn't expect a restraining order at all, no.
The city attorney said, "We're not seeking to block his hire or to restrict his right to hold this position. We're simply stating that an employer has a responsibility and a legal obligation to provide a safe and secure workplace for its workers, and that the introduction of someone working next to their cubicle who has promoted and advocated terror against city employees would make their workplace unsafe."
Skylar has a right, especially outside of the workplace, to express his views.
Civil rights attorney Mark Marin joined forces with the ACLU, asking the courts to deny the restraining order and drop the case. And the court did just that Friday, saying the city has failed to present clear and convincing evidence that there is a reasonable probability that Henry is a threat of future harm.
I mean, in order to get a workplace violence restraining order, you have to show that there's a credible threat. There never was a credible threat of violence at all.
The city attorney saying, while we accept the court's ruling, our opinion has not changed. Threats of harm toward our employees and their families will never be tolerated by the city of Sacramento, and we will continue to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that all city employees feel safe, secure, and protected while doing their jobs.
Do you wish you had been a little more artful in your language? Any regrets at all?
I could have phrased it differently. I mean, just doing this interview, I'll probably go back and find 15 things I've been like, I could have said that a little better, for sure.
Here at ABC 10, of course, we stand for you, and we did this story because in the end, it's the taxpayers who may end up paying for all of this. You see, now that the courts have sided with Henry, they can now seek to have the city pay for the legal fees he incurred fighting this whole thing. And his attorneys tell me that will likely be tens of thousands of dollars.